In the city of Lucknow, tucked away on land belonging to the Awas Vikas Parishad, sits Sector 11, a dense, informal settlement composed of roughly 280 makeshift shanties. It is home to over 1,000 people. These are the migrant workers, domestic helpers, and drivers who power the local economy. At roughly 5:30 p.m. on April 15th, a fire broke out deep within this cluster. Investigators suspect it started near a makeshift neighborhood canteen. Because the homes were constructed tightly together using bamboo, scrap wood, and plastic sheeting, the flames met virtually zero physical resistance. Within minutes, a localized accident consumed an entire block. The precarious nature of unregulated urban housing means there is no buffer zone. A minor heat source immediately becomes an uncontainable crisis. But the sheer speed of the blaze was driven by something else hidden inside the shanties. To support their small-scale commercial activities, residents were illegally hoarding over 50 cooking gas cylinders in these cramped spaces. As the heat intensified, those cylinders detonated in rapid succession. The blasts acted as chemical accelerators, throwing flaming debris across the settlement and generating a massive column of black smoke, visible 15 kilometers away. When 20 fire tenders arrived to suppress the blaze, they hit a structural wall. The slum's narrow, unplanned access roads made it incredibly difficult to maneuver heavy equipment to the core of the fire. That delay was heavily compounded by the public. Large crowds gathered at nearby intersections, completely blocking the path of emergency vehicles, so they could stand in the street and record the blaze on their phones. Between the massive fuel load hidden in the homes and a public treating an emergency as a spectacle, rescue teams lost crucial minutes. By the time they established a perimeter, the 280 homes were entirely gone. When dawn broke and cooling operations began, the true scale of the devastation emerged. Search teams digging through the debris found the charred remains of two young sisters, a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old infant, who had been trapped inside their shanty when the fire peaked. For the survivors, the ash held the remains of their futures. A migrant laborer named Rajesh Kumar sifted through the footprint of his home, looking for 30,000 rupees in cash he had slowly saved for his daughter's upcoming wedding. Another resident, Marut Nandan, had recently sold his primary source of income, his e-rickshaw, to pay for his mother's surgery. That cash was incinerated alongside his home. The inferno incinerated a lifetime of hard-won financial security, erasing the savings and survival mechanisms of an entire workforce in a single evening. A secondary crisis now paralyzes the survivors, the total destruction of their legal identity. The flames completely destroyed their Aadhaar cards, voter IDs, and their children's birth certificates. For a migrant population, these specific pieces of paper are the only bridge to banking, citizenship, and legal recognition. This diagram illustrates the resulting bureaucratic loop. The government authorized an immediate relief payout of 8 lakh rupees for the bereaved, but victims are physically blocked from claiming these funds because the fire destroyed the documents required to prove their identity. Without physical proof of who they are, these individuals are effectively erased from the state's legal memory, rendering them invisible exactly when they need intervention the most. The immediate emotional aftermath has now shifted into a highly active police investigation. Authorities have to determine exactly how a disaster of this magnitude was allowed to occur. Investigators are pursuing 2 standard forensic hypotheses: an accidental electrical short circuit and the criminal negligence of hoarding 50 LPG cylinders in an overcrowded space. But local residents have forced police to consider a third, far more disturbing angle: a premeditated conspiracy rooted in a bitter dispute over the land itself. According to testimonies from the slum, a nearby plot owner had repeatedly threatened to clear the shanties by setting them on fire. He allegedly promised to do it by April 15th, the exact date the inferno consumed Sector 11. Forensic experts are currently on site to answer the definitive question: was this an inevitable accident driven by unregulated poverty, or a calculated act of violence disguised as a tragedy? While the investigation unfolds, the district administration has deployed temporary rain basera shelters and initiated food distribution programs for the displaced families. Despite having access to these safe zones, many of the 1,000 survivors flatly refuse to leave the smoldering footprint of Sector 11. They are actively choosing to sit in the ash of their ruined homes. Without paperwork or formal deeds, physical presence is the only way they can guard their claim to the plot against opportunistic land grabbers. The Vikas Nagar fire exposes a brutal reality of the modern city. For India's vulnerable poor, lacking formal legal protection means a single spark can erase a lifetime of existence, forcing them to literally defend the ashes of their lives.
Let's go! Concept notebook where vision is created. Concept note to a new dimension elevated. Concept notebook.